All right, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Monday, April 22nd, 2019. Horrible police video out of Florida. A young black man viciously attacked by the police. Wait till you see this video out of Broward County. Folks are angry, upset. The officer has been taken off of the streets. Counterterrorism expert Malcolm Nance talked to me this morning, the Times during the morning show, about Trump's despicable behavior described in the Mueller Report and whether or not it is time for impeachment. Also, why don't the Democrats have the guts to actually lead impeachment hearings of the lying Donald Trump? We'll break it down with our panel. And the assault on our urban communities from gentrification goes on. We'll talk to a lawyer who is suing D.C. for $1 billion. Gentrification, folks, is a major issue. And it's not just impacting D.C., it's impacting cities all across the country. But the question is, what should we be doing about gentrification? All right, y'all. Senator Kamala Harris leans into her HBCU experience on the campaign trail, and Senator Elizabeth Warren, she dropped a new plan today that's getting lots of kudos across the country. She wants the ultra-rich to pay for $1.25 trillion of student loan debt. Oh, I can't wait to have that conversation with our panel. Plus, a new PBS special airing tomorrow looks at the black experience in business. It is called The Untold Story of African-American Entrepreneurship. And I'll be live tweeting about that tomorrow. We'll explain to you all the details. Folks, it's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, this video we're about to show you dropped on Thursday. It showed Broward County, Florida sheriff's deputies essentially attacking a black student outside of a junior high school. Now, here's what happened here. Roll the video, folks. In this video, what happened is a black student actually picked up the cell phone that fell out of the pocket of another student. This deputy then, they pepper sprayed the young black man, and you see exactly what happens here. Punching him to the head, handcuffing him, and this video, folks, went all over the country. Folks were angry, upset. The mayor of that town actually called for the officer to be fired. And again, what you have here is a cop who said he feared he would be struck by one of the junior high school students. Of course, the police union defends the cops. The two teens were arrested. One was charged with trespassing, the other with assaulting an officer and obstruction without violence. Now, Broward State Attorney Michael Satz said his office was investigating the incident and would meet with the attorney representing the 15-year-old student. Again, lots of controversy surrounding this, and I was on social media a little bit earlier, and I saw where the police officer, again, has been placed on restrictive duty. Now, the question is exactly what is restrictive duty? And so I'm going to pull the story up for you. Please hit student. Give me 1 second. I know, guys, just give me 1 second. I don't have the iPad plugged in, but I'm just going to pull this. I'm going to get the latest for you guys because, again, folks like Gabrielle Union and others were tweeting this story over the weekend. Many of them were quite angry with what took place here. Again, that deputy is under investigation. The sheriff is also vowing there's going to be accountability in this case as well. Broward Sheriff Gregory Toney said he is launching a thorough investigation of what took place. Tony is an African-American, the sheriff there of Broward County. And again, according to this story here, apparently these deputies were what they call on proactive patrol at a particular town square plaza as a result of complaints of students fighting. That's why they were there. And again, what took place, they were actually dealing with another young man when the cell phone of the student, actually one young man, fell out. So the young African-American kid picks his cell phone up, and then that's what then led to the pepper spray there. Now, this deputy, Christopher Krikovich, that is his name. He was ordered to surrender his gun and badge while the Division of Internal Affairs, they are investigating. This is the quote here, and actually I'm going to have it for you in just 1 second. I want to play for you the video that was released by the sheriff. I want to right now bring in our panel, A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee, Eugene Craig, of course, CEO Eugene Craig organization, also by Skype, Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeaver, leadership strategist and author of How Exceptional Black Women Lead. Scott, I'll start with you. Look, we can go on and on and on with these sort of stories. The two officers, Christopher Krikovich and Greg Lacera, pepper sprayed, brutally beat, and arrested this kid, and he was literally picking a cell phone up.
Yeah, but let me say this. You're absolutely right. But the first part of this, what the police are going to say is they were in a crowd, there had been kids fighting, they were on proactive patrol. And if you look at the kid picks up the phone and they're exchanging words. The video isn't enough. You need the verbal or you need the audio to really get at what was happening. That doesn't justify the police. What I'm saying is they're on high alert, and it looks like they exchanged words, and then they overreacted. They escalated versus de-escalated, and we've seen this over and over again.
Well, and Eugene, that's the issue that we consistently see. Police who do not know how to de-escalate a situation, they consistently escalate.
Yeah, I mean, look, this officer needs to be charged. He doesn't need to be any kind of active duty, inactive duty, unrestricted duty, or restricted duty. His ass need to be behind a cell, and if they find him to be innocent, they can drop the charges. What I'm getting sick and tired of is police chiefs and sheriffs of sheriff's departments launching quote-unquote investigations, and IA have them come and do their thing months and months in advance.
The video's right there.
The video's right there. You know, if a cop want to step out of line, at all the investigations, you're not doing that with regular folk. You know, you want to come and investigate if I slapped Scott or not for 4 or 5 months. No, arrest his ass. You know, arrest his ass like you arrest a regular civilian, and then throw his ass in jail.
But that's how they would do it, though, if it was a regular civilian.
And if he's found to be in the right, you let him go when the charges is dropped or whatever. Yeah. And also, let me talk to the mayor here. You know, if you want to fire him, effing fire him.
Yeah, but the real thing to look at in that video, without the audio, is that once they have him on the ground, he's not resisting, and he punches the guy. Hold on, they punch him, but they punch his head into. They slam his head into the concrete 2 or 3 times.
And then punch him.
Completely unnecessary. And then punch him because his hand was visible, but it wasn't behind. Because after they do that, you see him take his hand out and go back behind.
But this is also why he actively has pepper spray in his eyes. You know, he actively has mace pepper spray in his eyes. His eyes are burning.
Yeah.
So what do you expect him to do? To try to attend his eyes?
But look at they were hyped up, though. Look at the military uniforms they had on.
Yeah.
They were hyped up.
They were ready to go.
So 1 second before I go to Avis, this is Sheriff Tony. This is what he had to say. So what I'm going to do is I want to go to Avis. I want to fix that, then go to Avis. So Avis, your thoughts about this?
Not just that he didn't resist after he was down. He never resisted. He never resisted. He immediately was pepper sprayed and attacked. Let's just say what this is. That young man was attacked. And, you know, I'm really tired of this excuse. Oh, I was afraid that, you know, I was going to be overcome, that I was in the middle of this fight situation. Listen, if you're that much of a punk, you don't need to be a police officer. That is the bottom line. If you cannot understand and judge a situation better than that, then I agree. Your ass needs to be fired. There is no excuse for that whatsoever. I am so tired of seeing our children be attacked and in some cases murdered. And time again, nothing happens to the perpetrator. And I'm concerned that this is just going to be another one of those examples.
Hold tight 1 second. This is Sheriff Tony. This was a statement that he released a few days ago.
Good afternoon, Broward County. I want to take a moment to speak to you all as your chief law enforcement officer. Yesterday, my deputies were involved in making an arrest where force was applied to one of our students in the community. I've been able to look at all the different transmittals, both in our social media platforms from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as being able to view some of the different comments that are being made throughout the community in general. I wanted to assure you that this incident is being conducted under a thorough investigation. We will look at this as a fact-finding measure to ensure that we hold folks accountable. I'm not reading from a script to you. Just shortly, roughly 90 days ago, I was appointed to this position exclusively about accountability. And that accountability will be held not just for sake of when we are right, but in the cases where we may be wrong. And so over the next few days, this may take some time for us to look thoroughly into, but understand that we will be transparent, and if folks need to be held accountable, it shall be done. So please be patient with us.
All right. So, again, that was Sheriff Gregory Tony, Broward County Sheriff. We see these over and over and over again. and obviously every time the police union they jumps up, they have their back, whatever. But at some point, cops are gonna have to learn how to calm a situation down.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you see the kid, right, is picked up the phone, and then he said something, and it looks like the kid is taking a step towards him. Not really clear, but that's when he puts up the spray.
So one second, so do this here. Just play the video.
Uh-huh.
I just want to play the video. Hold on one second. Hold on.
I'm not saying he did.
Hold on one second. Hold on. I want to play the video. So no.
Go back.
No, play the video, but I want to play it but right where it started. So go back, take it back, because you should be able to have the video where the young man. Okay, so at one right there. So pick. Right. So you saw that. Now go back. Now this was the issue I had right here. Now go back to the beginning. Stop it right there. Stop it right there.
Yeah.
Stop right there. Then go back. Just take it back. It's okay. Just rewind it back.
Slowly.
Okay. So here was the issue there. He's picking something up, the cell phone, and then now press play. So the cop. So what happens? So the cop shoves his head. Shoves his head and pushes him away. Then he says something, but probably along the lines of, "Why you touching my hair, whatever." Then he hit him with the pepper spray.
And they have zero tolerance for it. And one thing we train our young black men is that they have zero tolerance, and you cannot speak to them under those circumstances. It's always yes, sir, no, sir. I'm not blaming the kid, don't get me wrong, but as a survival piece, right? When he said something, that's when the spray came out, and that's when it just broke loose.
But here's the piece. If I'm picking something up, if I'm picking it up, what I don't need is the cop pushing him by the head out of the way. And that's what precipitated him saying something.
Listen, I can't put this on the kid. That cop was out of control.
No, I'm not putting it on the kid.
I agree with you. That cop was out of control. The cop very clearly saw he was picking up the phone.
Yeah, they were ready.
He was ready to go for the mace. But can I address the sheriff video real quick?
Yeah.
That sheriff full of shit. You're not going to sit here and tell me you're reading from a script. You're not going to sit here and tell me you don't already have the facts as they're laid out in the same evidence that you're looking at while this kid's probably still have charges hanging over his head. That sheriff needs to move very quickly and use his power as a law enforcement officer to actually enforce the law against one of his officers.
He's got to cross the T.
Avis, final comment from you.
His blue show of love is black.
Absolutely. I mean, problem is our children. I wonder how old is this child? Let's just look at what we're talking about here. This is a middle school age child, a child that is being assaulted by an adult who has the authority to potentially kill him. If you cannot control your judgment better than that, if you cannot control your actions better than that, you don't belong with the badge. And one last thing, all of us on this panel know that if that was a white boy picking up that darn phone, this would have never escalated in that way. They dehumanize our children, they batter our children, and then they put people in blackface up in front of a camera to try to justify it. And we cannot sit here and stand for it. Our children deserve to be able to live as free citizens in this society, and not have to sit up every day and say, yes, massa, whenever something happens around the police. That is not right.
Yep.
All right, folks, let's talk about Donald Trump. Of course, he is still crowing, now complaining that there was no obstruction, no collusion, now trying to blame it all on Democrats. But the piece that we still are overlooking is the impact that Russia had on the campaign 2016. The Mueller Report lays out in detail the role that Russia played, their operatives played, when it came to this election. Well, this morning on the Tom Jordan Morning Show, I talked with counterterrorism expert and MSNBC analyst Malcolm Nance about this. He wrote a book that came out 6 weeks before the election that detailed how Russia was going to try to impact the election. And here's our conversation. Malcolm Nance joins us right now. And Malcolm, this has to be, again, a vindication not only for that book, but also the plot to destroy democracy. And because Mueller lays out where Russia actually accessed voter information in a couple of states, how they were specifically trying to help Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, their hatred for Hillary Clinton. This was very clear in what he laid out in this report.
Well, good morning, and you're absolutely right. Even though William Barr tried about 3 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, to make it appear that Donald Trump had absolutely no contacts with Russia and that he did nothing to hinder or cover up the investigation, the exact opposite was found out. I mean, even his press conference on the morning, last Thursday morning, is laughable when you now realize that although the Mueller report showed that there was no criminal conspiracy, it's really, the first section of it is 448 pages of two major components. One, how Russia attacked the United States, what their intent was to attack the United States, which was to put Donald Trump in the office of the presidency. And the other component of that was how the Trump campaign accepted all the benefits. And that's a phrase they use in there, expected and accepted the benefits of the Russian effort. Where Trump sort of gets a pass, and only the shadiest of passes, is that the report says that they didn't conspire with Russian government intrusion efforts involved in the hacking. It doesn't say anything more about where they had hundreds of or over 100 contacts, and where in almost every instance they lied to cover up their contacts. And of course, working with WikiLeaks, which is still an ongoing legal matter with Roger Stone. So, it's sort of a vindication, since I wrote a book 6 weeks before the election predicting all of this would happen. All of it has happened. And then I wrote another book, which was 4 chapters of how Russia did it and how the Americans, the Americans in the Conservative Party and Donald Trump seem completely beholden to Vladimir Putin. And one last point, they did not investigate whether Trump was compromised or whether Vladimir Putin holds something over on Donald Trump. Not at all. All they did was research was the individuals in the campaign working with the Russian government in a conspiracy.
And why didn't they?
It wasn't in the mandate of the initial operation. And, the funny thing is, I spent 2 years shouting to the high heavens that this investigation started as a national counterintelligence investigation. That's where you hunt down Americans who may, in fact, be working as agents or assets of a foreign power. Mm-hmm. It turns out there were no agents, but there were a lot of assets. And that's a technical term of art. Everybody should understand. I've had people like Andrew Sullivan say that I said Donald Trump was a Russian agent. I have never said that. An agent is a person who actually signs a contract, who is fully aware that he works for a foreign government and intelligence agency and has duties and reporting obligations. Never said that. An asset is a person who can be anything from a useful idiot to a person who understands benefits are coming to them and accepts those benefits. And that's pretty much where we left it with them.
Now, that useful idiot sounds like a Fredo, Donald Trump Jr. All right, so...
It's a technical term of art, and yeah, it's accurate.
Malcolm, one of the things that, again, going through this report and looking what they laid out, you have a president who undoubtedly committed obstruction of justice. In fact, Lindsey Graham in 1999, first of all, it amazes me how these people act as if we don't actually can look up old comments. But Lindsey Graham, when he was talking about Bill Clinton, when Republicans went after him and Monica Lewinsky, this is what he said. Clinton, quote, encouraged people to lie for him. He lied. I think he obstructed justice. I think there's a compelling case that he has, in fact, engaged in conduct that will be better for him to leave office than to stay in office. It is undeniable that Donald Trump asked his own subordinates to lie on his behalf, and he lied about the lies. He obstructed justice in firing Comey, trying to fire Mueller, and doing everything he can to sabotage this investigation.
You're absolutely correct. And there's a reason for that. And Robert Mueller writes that reason in the report. He believed that Donald Trump obstructed justice, although he would not draw the conclusion. He laid out all the evidence, right? He had all the evidence was right there because he knew that this was actually up to Congress has the power to remove a president from power, and that was the only legal remedy for a president at this point. But in doing so, he made it eminently clear that the President of the United States was terrified, was afraid that other criminal behaviors which were not within the scope of the report would be found out. One of which was not just the Russian effort and his effort to try to get Hillary Clinton's emails, but also he did not want Trump Tower Moscow to be known about. And that is stated specifically in the report as one of the reasons why he was most likely obstructing justice. And by doing so, he, of course, violated his oath of office. And if there's any reason that any person should have anything to say about what should happen to Donald Trump, it's because he violated his oath of office.
Okay, are you going to predict an impeachment too?
I would like to, but that requires some guts, and but if it was John Madison or Alexander Hamilton, Trump would have been impeached in the first week.
I'll say it right now. You're not going to see impeachment because Democrats do not have the guts to actually do it. They will say, oh, we got an election next year. We don't want to cause any issues. But this is going to give him a pass. And this is a bad precedent for the next presidents that happen because essentially you're saying you can do wrong. We won't penalize you.
Okay.
And guts not apparent in the Washington, D.C. area.
But if it was Republicans in charge, a Democrat will be impeached right now. Malcolm Nance, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for your analysis.
Great job.
My pleasure.
In fact, folks, let's go to Politico, right down their website. Henry, go to my iPad. Pelosi tamps down impeachment expectations. House Democrats will discuss Mueller's report Monday as they grapple with how to move forward. You also have Donald Trump, who is suing Congressman Elijah Cummings, who is trying to get the financial records of Donald Trump. Now he is fighting back on that front there as well. Avis, I'll start with you. You have Democrats who are operating from the position that, we shouldn't even go down this road. But the reality is Robert Mueller laid out and said it is up to Congress to ascertain whether or not that was obstruction of justice. He presented all of the facts there. The fact of the matter is Donald Trump did try to obstruct justice. And what gets me is all these people who are saying, especially Rudy Giuliani, so sound like a fool by saying, since it wasn't carried out, it wasn't obstruction. So that means if Eugene said, Roland, I want you to go kill my girlfriend, and here's $20, and I don't do it. We're not going to arrest Eugene for trying to hire a hitman. No, he in jail. I'm in jail.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think you really hit the nail on the head a few seconds ago when you said that the Democrats just don't have the gut to do it. I am so tired of these sort of mealy-mouthed, sort of weak positions that the Democrats continue to take around this particular president. And I'm concerned, as was mentioned, about the precedent that this is setting. I mean, we are saying that it's okay to have a lawless person in office who continually, throughout his entire campaign period, had hundreds of connections through his staff with various Russian entities. We also know through the Mueller report that not all the information was actually gathered from that report. I mean, they even mentioned in the reports that emails and other documents were actually destroyed before they got to see it. So there is ample information there to suggest that illegalities happened. If he was completely exonerated, as he first claimed that he was, then he would be open to letting the whole world see this report, as he initially said that he would. But we all know why he hasn't. We all know why when he found out that he was going to be investigated, that he said, I am effed. It's because he knew he was guilty then, and we all know that he's guilty now.
Eugene, someone sent a tweet out today that I thought was quite interesting. They said that first, Democrats did not want to go after Russia because they assumed Hillary Clinton was going to win. Right. It didn't happen. They did not want to go after Trump in his first 2 years because midterm elections. The person said, look, don't stop trying to make this mistake that, we're going to beat him in 2020. That's the way to do it. At the end of the day, if the president broke a law, then you are to hold the president accountable. My issue is if they do nothing, what they are essentially saying is it's okay what you did.
Yeah, look, Democrats are the party of women. You know, y'all had the year of the women last year. Release your inner Cersei Lannister and go after this kid's throat. I mean, slice his throat. And I'm trying hard not to cuss on your show, Roland.
You cussed a
But
few times.
yeah, go after his fucking throat. Impeach him. MF got to go. You got the facts right there. It wasn't Mueller's job to come in and give you an end. He gave you the means to the end. He laid out at least 10 times Donald Trump tried to obstruct justice. And today we had, Rex Tillerson go on the record and say, yeah, the president asked me to do some illegal shit. So, at some point in time, you got to grow balls, pull out your knife, and gut him, motherfucker.
I am not, Scott. Scott, I'm absolutely convinced that if this was a Democratic president, even if the Democrats control the Senate,
Gone.
and Republicans control the House,
Gone.
there would be impeachment hearings.
Well, you saw that with Clinton. They impeached Clinton over lying and obstructing justice over whether he had a marital affair, an extramarital affair. That's essentially what the claims were against Clinton. This is why we can't wait, though. One, you heard a little bit today from Donald Trump. He tweeted that the Mueller investigation never even interviewed my son, and so therefore those are the people the closest to me, and they never did it. If the Democrats don't try to impeach Trump, you're going to hear Trump say in about a year or 2 or 3 months, the Mueller investigation cleared me, and the Democrats didn't even impeach me. So I'm even doubly cleared. The reality is we cannot wait because this was an attack on our system. The 2 impeachments we've had before, Clinton over an extramarital affair and lying about it, and even Andrew Johnson was impeached because they thought that he acted ultra-virously in firing one of his cabinet members, 1, and 2, he talked bad about the Congress. Now, those were 2 impeachments. This one is about Russia's attack on us, about lawlessness in the White House, and about the president who, by all practical purposes, is a Russian asset by definition. And yet, what will the future generations say of this House, of this Senate, for taking no action against this president? I think that's a big problem, and I think you got to go. And you got to impeach him.
And what you have here, Avis, you have a man who literally asked others to lie for him, and and then he said, "I give out orders, and everyone follows my orders." Okay. Well, actually, they didn't, but he asked others to lie for him, and then you have Rudy Giuliani, the biggest corrupt idiot. Oh, well, that's only their side.
He's a liar, number one. He's a liar. He is a criminal. He is someone who has zero morality and conscience. He does not care about this country. He only cares about aggrandizing himself, amassing his fortune. And so it's not surprising that he asked others to lie, and it's not surprising that he continues to lie every day. Just as A. Scott Bolden says, he understands marketing, and he understands that if you sell a lie enough times, that people are going to believe that it's the truth. And it's because of that we cannot allow him to sort of redirect reality by continuing to lie to the American population.
Well, let's first of all, it sounded like that was Donald Trump crying there. So let's talk about lying. The lying Sarah Sanders. She, of course, has been. She admitted to Bob Mueller that when she made the comment that she heard specifically from FBI agents who were not happy with James Comey, she admitted that was a lie. Now, what's interesting is that she said that this was a comment that that Trump had countless conversations with FBI agents who said morale was low and had lost confidence in Comey. That was a lie. The Mueller report said there was no evidence of that there was no evidence of that, and quote, Sanders acknowledged to investigators that her comments were not founded on anything. Now, his was interesting. So she goes to George Stephanopoulos, and they're discussing this. And she then is trying to play this little word game. So then, of course, April Ryan criticizes her, said that she needs to be fired from her job, have her head lopped off, but it's probably not going to happen. Then her lying daddy, Mike Huckabee, Governor Mike Huckabee, he jumps in and then says that she's trying to incite violence against Sarah Sanders, even though he had earlier said that April Ryan should be gutted like a deer. Then you have Sarah Sanders now saying that, April is saying that her head should be chopped off. Okay, anybody who heard the comment knows exactly what April was talking about. But what you have here is an absolute liar in Sarah Sanders. And here's the deal. If there's another White House news conference a daily presidential briefing from that podium, and she comes out, the moment she says something, every reporter should say, why should we trust what you just said is true?
Exactly.
Because you're a known liar. That should be the response to everything she says. Why should we trust what you said is true? Because you're a known liar. Now, she's not going to lose her job because Donald Trump likes people who lies for him. That's how you keep your job.
Right. Yeah.
If you keep lying for him. He's angry that Don McGahn told the truth. In his campaign, they fired McGahn's law firm as a law firm for Trump's re-election campaign. That shows you how he feels when you actually tell the truth. So Sarah Sanders, sit the hell down. And your daddy, okay, he's such a fake preacher. Okay, so I don't want to hear what he has to say as well. Bottom line is, you are a bona fide liar. And yes, you should be fired. But when the president who likes liars, we know it's not going to happen. And so we're just going to keep calling you exactly what you are, a flat-out liar. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered talking about D.C. and colonizers wanting to take over. Some of y'all call that, well, I was going to say something else. I'll be back in a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Oh, gentrification here in Washington, D.C. We keep seeing this issue take place all across the country. Now you got white folks in D.C. want to walk their dog-pooping dogs around the yard on Howard University campus. And as a result of the drama last week, this is a letter that was sent to the Howard family by its president, Dr. Wayne Frederick. The statement says, quote, well, first we hear some nice words for him, but he pretty much said, keep your damn dogs off our lawn. Quote, our campus is a beautiful, sacred space that provides comfort and, in many ways, sanctuary in a place that feels more like a second home than merely an academic institution. The yard is a treasured site of our commencement ceremony. It is the ultimate long walk that symbolizes a sacred tradition. Every student's matriculation, we're aware of the concerns regarding dog walking across campus. We appreciate pet owners respecting our campus by not bringing pets onto the private areas. Now, you also have hashtag Don't Mute DC, of course, behind the protest that kept the go-go music going at the T-Mobile store in a DC neighborhood. It was organized by a live band. First of all, organizing a live band go-go street concert tomorrow. It's going to be at 14th and U Streets, right in the heart of a neighborhood that is seeing the problems of white folks moving in, black folks moving out, and it's causing lots of problems. R.A. Teresa, civil rights attorney, filed a $1 billion lawsuit against D.C. last year over this issue. Join us on the show. How you doing?
Well, how are you?
All right, so what's the basis of the $1 billion lawsuit? Who specifically are you suing?
Suing the Office of Planning, also suing the D.C. Zoning Commission, and that's based on patterns and practices of Fifth Amendment violations of my clients who have appeared before the Zoning Commission, actually testifying on behalf of their communities, going and asking for certain statutes and regulations to be followed, and routinely these were not followed all across the city, beginning at Berry Farm, McMillan Park, Buzzard Point, Union Market, Poplar Point.
So you're saying that the action of the D.C. government has resulted in this problem with white residents coming in and trying to change the cultural norms?
Well, I would say that the D.C. government contributed to an environment where white people were incentivized to move in, or well-off people, people who were within certain professions is what we alleged, and people who were of a certain age, and these people do tend to skew white. I think it's more of a cultural thing where they believe that they can come into a community and impose their will, as it were. I don't think that has much to do with the government, but they facilitated that.
How are you seeing neighborhoods gentrified in D.C.? Explain for the folks what that looks like and how it has changed.
Well, for example, in historic Anacostia right now, there's a project being proposed called Reunion Square. And so, I'm just going to give an example. If there's a lot that's maybe 2 stories and the developer will go to the zoning commission and ask to be able to build 10 stories there. If they bought the lot for $200,000 and now they want to build 10 stories, that lot becomes roughly $1 million because they can do more with the lot. They can do 5 times more with the lot, and so it's more valuable to them. And if that was approved through a deregulated environment, that almost was a subsidy for the developer. And so that ends up raising the prices of everything around it through land speculation. We've already had businesses directly across from Reunion Square, and that hasn't been built yet, that have been displaced because the landlord doesn't want to renew their lease because it's not profitable to renew it at the rate that it was previously at.
So the question then becomes, okay, for black folks, we see this happening, we know it happens, but we also know the land is available. Should we be buying it? Because in essence, and this is really where this sort of battle goes on. Folks live in areas and they want amenities. They want grocery stores, they want more restaurants, they want nightlife and those things. And then what happens is developers say, okay, fine, I would love to build those things, but it's going to cost money, so therefore I must get my money back. So how do we have a black conversation about this because it also is impacting us, not just in D.C., but in Oakland, but in Harlem, but in Chicago. We can go on and on and on where this has happened across America.
Well, I think it requires an honest conversation. I think part of that honest conversation is realizing that not everybody wants that. I think that communities are divided. I know in Anacostia, normally you can determine what a community member wants out of a specific project based on their stake in the community. So if you're a homeowner, maybe you want those things because your home values will increase from having those things. But if you're a renter, maybe you don't want those things. Maybe all you want is a grocery store. You don't need all the bells and whistles.
But here's the deal, though, and this is the thing that I've talked about across the country. The problem is those who have the vote are homeowners because they're the ones who own. And so you sort of have this battle because if you own, you're the one paying taxes. And so how do we, and I'm being very serious, how do we really grapple with this? Because we are seeing areas that are totally being transformed, and some people like it, some people don't. Yes, folks are being displaced, but also you have this, folks are saying, how do you also deal with low-income housing, or how do you deal with affordable housing? And you have these city officials, what they want gleaming structures. They want vibrant. They want all this sort of nightlife. And you got this battle going on, even in places where you have majority blacks on the city council.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a battle going on. And luckily, in the United States, the way our democracy works, you don't have to be a homeowner to participate in the process, whether that's at the zoning commission or voting. So, I mean, I think everybody's voices need to be heard. I know in D.C., I brought several appeals court cases based on behavior at the zoning commission on behalf of low-income residents and communities. I think that you're right in a sense that people who are residents who own homes tend to participate more in the voting aspect of our democracy. But also, I realize that when it comes to the judicial system, a lot of times, especially when it comes to going against the government, they don't participate as much. A lot of times, those are the poorer residents. And so, again, it depends on your stake in what's going on, and that kind of frames how you participate in our democratic process.
Scott, how do you view the lawsuit?
I haven't seen the lawsuit, but I think he's got a upward hurdle, whether it's the Court of Appeals or the Zoning Commission or the D.C. government, because these decisions that are being made by representatives of those communities appointed by the mayor 9 times out of 10. The other thing is they have immunity, qualified immunity or full immunity, based on that decision making. And as a result, they can't suffer any personal liability simply because you disagree with the decisions. The other part you got to remember is these aren't discriminatory or disparate impact decisions per se. The result may be what you don't like, but the fact of the matter is black, white, yellow, or brown, each of us can go to those zoning commissions. Each of us can ask for what type of development rights that we want or changes. And at the same time, we all can equally participate in buying those properties, investing in those communities. And you can't have a racial animus on the color of your community simply because people of color can't afford to invest while people who don't look like us on this panel can invest. It's just how it is.
Avis, gentrification is an issue. How do we confront it and deal with it? We know it's taking place, and so the question then becomes, as we are seeing development take place in cities, what do? They go after low-priced areas to maximize their dollars. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, there was a group in Atlanta that did a crowdfunding, raised about $9.7 million in 7 days to create this real estate fund. I remember I was on, when I did last year's State of Black America Town Hall for the National Urban League, I literally said it. I said, okay, it's in the Urban League's report. I said, I would love to see the Urban League create an investment fund that does that, where in those areas where you have neighborhoods changing, we should be buying it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's got to be a way in which we can find avenues to amass our wealth, that there are like collective buying mechanisms similar to what you just mentioned there, where we can have a stake in these communities. I remember when I was in graduate school, I lived in a cooperative, and the cooperative was really one that was organized by a larger nonprofit organization that basically bought land under buildings that were in gentrifying communities at the time, and they created what's called land trusts. And so that created situations where people who had lower income levels could afford to stay in and in essence own a stake in that community even as it's becoming gentrified. Programs like that, I think, are absolutely critical. Yet I think we also need to realize that something is amiss. Something's going on in D.C. that's not going on in other cities. I mean, this is the city that is outpacing all others in terms of the level and the speed in which it is gentrifying. And so we need to make sure that we keep Chocolate City at least some level of chocolate in here, at least chocolate rebels, because at this stage it's going to become Vanilla City before long.
Eugene.
A couple solutions. One, chiefly, people got to start buying
Without
land.
profanity?
Yeah, without profanity.
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
you like profanity. But chiefly among them, people have to start buying houses and start buying homes, start buying land. You can't build black wealth without land ownership. Secondly, you probably need to get rid of the Zoning and Planning Commission and let people just do and build with their land as they choose to, similar to like cities like Houston.
That's the problem when you have no zone.
That is a huge problem. He lives there. That's right.
That's the problem.
Exactly. Let me tell you something. You know the best way you do this is the fund that you talked about. If you put one up in all 50 states or in cities that have
30 urban cities.
Top 30 urban cities, right, and let black people invest or anybody invest, then you can compete there. That's a much better way.
The third part about this is that D.C. has a unique situation where every 4 years or so you have about 100,000 people move in and move out, and a good part of those, most of those people don't look like us, and then a lot of them end up staying, and I think that's probably the real cause of gentrification.
But they're free to do that, though.
I'm not saying they're free to do that.
Well, first, I want to speak a little bit about the lawsuit. So the case, it doesn't. We do allege racial animus, but I think the gist of the case is that they released certain policy documents where they stated that they would change land use designations at the Zoning Commission based on the intent of attracting people who have certain job professions and who are of a certain age and those are classes that are protected by the DC Human Rights Act. And also that my clients actually appeared before the Zoning Commission and faced very bad decisions. And a few of those cases we've won. Berry Farm, we won. And they spoke about how they didn't consider displacement and relocation of residents as they were supposed to. And so that's a part of the lawsuit as well. But I just would like to say that you can get more out of development as a DC resident, but you have to participate in the process. You can get community benefits agreements where it's possible to get land trusts, but you have to participate in the process.
Right.
And you can create leverage through participating in the process.
All right, Teresa, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, Senator Kamala Harris, she's leaning into her HBCU background. She's visited more HBCUs than any other candidate in the 2020 campaign. Of course, South Carolina, there are 8 HBCUs there. Now, first, of course, she had a news conference at Howard University when she launched her campaign. She said that, quote, HBCUs teach us that there will always be a community that will support us, whatever we will decide to do. So she, of course, is trying to build her base based upon that. But you also have Senator Elizabeth Warren today, who dropped her plan to how to get rid of $1.46 trillion in student loan debt. She calls it a drag on the economy, and she wants to forgive up to $50,000 of debt for more than 42 million Americans. And she said that would, of course, be paid for by a wealth tax that affects only 75,000 families. Taxing wealth, not income. The tax begins at net worth over $50 million. Lots of folks on the campaign trail have been talking about this. Senator Elizabeth Warren also is getting lots of kudos for her plans to deal with the issue of racial inequality. The problem, though, if we look at polling numbers, she's not going up the polls. So she's dropping proposals left and right, but it's not actually garnering lots of attention. Real quick here, Avis, I think what's going to happen is if you go to when you go to these debates beginning in June, this will be the opportunity for her on a large scale to be able to speak to these issues on stage with other candidates in a way to get some traction. Right now, you have Congressman Seth Moulton, who came in today. He was the 19th person running. Joe Biden, we're into him, he would be the 20th. That's a lot of damn people. Yeah. And so I think, again, she's doing all these proposals, but they're not gaining traction because I keep telling people only junkies right now are paying attention.
Yeah, it's not just that people aren't paying attention. It's who the media is actually paying attention to, right? And the media tends to be, picking out a specific darling of the month that they want to pay attention to. And right now, it's the mayor that they want to pay attention to. And throughout, it has seemingly been basically bouncing for the most part from one of the, male competitors to another. Honestly, the media hasn't given a whole lot of attention to the women candidates over an extended period of time, and certainly have not given attention to her, even though, as you rightly mentioned, I believe that she has been a lot more prolific than any of the other candidates currently in the race in terms of coming out with policy position after policy position after policy position. So they'd rather hear a mayor speak in platitudes without any specificity. They'd rather hear a Beto O'Rourke speak without any specificity as to policy than really listen to her sort of unpack all these different ideas. However, I kind of agree that once we get individuals on the stage where they really have to show their mettle in terms of the degree to which they understand the issues and what their specific ideas are, that's where you're going to separate those individuals who are in it because they want some sort of notoriety or they're trying to figure out how they're going to move to the next thing, from those individuals who really have something substantive to say and really can be a serious contender for the presidency.
Eugene, I kept telling people when Senator Kamala Harris announced, people were going, in the first 3, 4, or 5 days. How dare you say she shouldn't be dropping policies? Because I said, nobody pays attention in the beginning. Hello, this Senator Elizabeth Warren is proving me to be absolutely correct. Right. You can go out there and you can drop 5, 10, 20 proposals, but the bottom line is this is the preseason of preseason. Yeah. This is not where people are really, really into it. We're now into the beauty pageant phase. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Stuff like that. And that's where we are. She's doing a phenomenal job with her proposals, but the reason they're not catching fire is because where we are, political media and others, this is not what the emphasis is right now.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm supporting Senator Harris, but the thing is this. the media has a fixation on white male candidates. And so, literally, I wouldn't be shocked or surprised.
Because the media
are full of white males.
Are full of white men.
Yeah. And so, somebody like
but
Pete.
there are two white men
But
leading in polls, too.
Wait. Pete Buttigieg, right? A no-name mayor from South Bend, Indiana, who just happened to throw his hat in the race for DNC chair a year ago. You know, he has no real weight under his belt. You know, he's problematic, has problems with the local black community in South Bend. Fired a black police chief. But the media has now deemed him the next best thing out of thin air. I mean, literally, they conjured him up the same way they conjured Donald Trump.
But what about his fundraising? And what about his
The
polling?
fundraising came after the media blessing.
The
fundraising came after the media blessing.
Okay.
It came after the media blessing. They gave him all this glowing coverage, and then boom, he raises $7 million. He wasn't raising that money beforehand. He's never raised any type of money. He's never had this type of profile.
Are you bragging or complaining?
I'm complaining.
Kamala Harris can raise a bunch of money.
The thing is, Kamala's been a statewide elected official about 16 years now. But when you look at the other women in the race, look at Elizabeth Warren, you look at Kristen Gillibrand, people who are actually qualified, people that actually have actual proposals, and compared to the media, the way they're treating Buttigieg, it's crazy.
It's never been the litmus test. Let me tell you. Here's the thing. You and I and everybody on this panel, we intellectualize these politics and elections for the president as well as local, right? We are like a 1% or a fraction of 1% of the average number of voters who are actually going to cast a vote. Mm-hmm. It's who they like. It's always a beauty contest. Policies matter, and they matter to us because it affects our communities. But in the end, it's about who you like. Barack Obama went to Wall Street and told them he was going to raise their taxes, and he raised $2 million in one night. They just liked him. He connected. Right. And if they like you, you connect, you raise money, you get more media attention, you can win, and you can be dumb as a doorknob. Think about it.
But again, the point here is that what often happens is, we saw this with Amy Klobuchar, we saw this with Warren, we saw this with that, where all these stories on the women's temperament and how they got along with staff or whatever.
That's completely unfair.
No. I'm telling you what the stories were. And what I'm saying is, what you have is when you have largely white men who are controlling the political coverage, you have a difference in terms of how they cover candidates. I think that's what the issue there is. Folks, we're talking about African Americans in business. Tomorrow there's going to be a documentary airing on PBS called Boss, The Black Experience in Business. It's the untold story of African American entrepreneurship. It is directed by Stanley Nelson. It premieres on PBS at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Here is the trailer.
1, 2, get down. Paid the cost to be the boss. Paid the cost to be the boss. Look at me.
African American business is an essential part of this ideal of Black liberation.
Resilience, practicality, strategic thinking. These are the qualities that business leaders have, but sometimes only emerge under the most stressful and sometimes unfair circumstances.
In the tradition of making a way out of no way, Black entrepreneurs were forced to sell to their own community, but those businesses allowed them to become economically independent.
Having fun, got money fun.
Wherever we are, we didn't get there by ourselves. And because we did not get there by ourselves, we have an obligation to help those who need us. We have an obligation to give back.
Paid the cost, be the boss. Told you so.
If you look at African American business community traditions, there's always a sense that you do good by doing well, and you do well by doing good.
Today's subject is the Negro in business and industry.
Paid the cost to be the boss.
All right, folks, tomorrow I'm going to be moderating a live Twitter chat from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, along with Stanley Nelson and others. And so, again, that's going to be tomorrow on PBS. Also, folks, yesterday at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, Reverend Jamal Bryant raised about $120,000 to bail out a number of people in the Atlanta area who were in jail. Here's a video he posted on his Instagram page. Go to it, Henry.
and DeKalb County jails. As they boarded the buses for the ride home, we heard them tell their stories.
This is a dream come true. I didn't think I'd see this day. Definitely not this soon. I figured I'd be sitting there for about a year or more. I mean, there's people who've been there, months and months longer than I was in there. You know, my next door neighbor in my room, in my unit, he's been there 10 months. I've been there almost 3. You know, and you guys picked me, there are 3,000 inmates. I'm just thankful.
I feel blessed. I'm happy. I'm very thankful because y'all didn't have to do this for me. My own family didn't even buy me out, so I'm very thankful.
I ain't never had nobody help me or do nothing for me. I've been on my own since I was 13. Everything I've done by myself. So for y'all people to just come out and bless me like this, I really feel I really feel very grateful.
New Birth bailed out men and women from Rockdale, Fulton.
And they also opened college funds for a number of the children of the individuals who they bailed out. Yesterday, of course, was Easter Sunday. And, of course, that was, first of all, prayers go out to the folks in Sri Lanka. More than 200 folks were killed in terrorist attacks there. But that was earlier. I was on the Twitter page of Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, and so he tweeted this from my sermon yesterday. This isn't just a message for Easter Sunday. This is a message we need to hear every single day. So we're going to end the show on a word from my frat brother, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. Henry, go to my iPad.
Praying for something before I die. I wish Christians and most Christian leaders would learn this. To apply this to today and stop thinking that serving God is all about having an easy life. I'm praying before I die to preach to a whole church full of folk that ain't afraid to suffer for what's right. That's got a spiritual depth to them, because we got too many babies in the church. They think all God is a divine bellhop. You just come to God for what you want and never say to God, Lord, how do you want me to serve? And I wish we knew our faith, our history. Pray with me. Somebody once told me, McKinnon, I want to go to a church. This is what they told me. This is what they told me, Ben. They said, I want to go to a church that tells me everything is going to be all right, where I can forget about all my troubles in the world, where I don't have to hear no preacher talking about poverty and racism and that we are called to challenge those things. Let me just get my praise on and my blessing. And I said, let me talk to you as a praiser. And let me talk to you as somebody who knows God is in the blessing business. If that's all you want to hear, then you don't want to hear the gospel. You don't want to hear what doth the Lord require, that you do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before God. You don't want to hear woe unto those, Matthew 23:23, who go through religious actions but leave undone the weightier matters of the law, which is justice and faith and love. You don't want to hear take up your cross and follow me. You don't want to hear you cannot know the power of his resurrection until you know the fellowship of his suffering. And if you don't want to hear that, then you don't want a church. You want a shrine.
All right. That's the way to end the show. All right, folks, I will see you guys tomorrow from Sacramento. I'll be hosting a School Choice is the Black Choice Town Hall in Sacramento, along with Margaret Fortune with the Fortune Schools there. So looking forward to that. And so we'll be live streaming that event. And so we'll have our show 6 p.m. Eastern, but we'll be live streaming that event from 7 to 9 Pacific, which will actually be 10 p.m. Eastern to midnight East Coast time as well. Don't forget, if you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, please go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You can give to us via Cash App, PayPal, as well as Square. Every dollar you give goes to support this show and what we do in terms of trying to speak to our issues and our concerns. I shall see you guys tomorrow. Have a great time. Holla!